Hello everyone. Welcome to the discussion of community pediatrics and indices. In all through our pediatrics, all through these modules, we have been talking about death, disease and disability. But unless we are able to measure, unless we are able to have an index to know the meaning of it, the impact will not be completed. In terms of an MCQ entrance exam, NEET super speciality has occasional questions being asked. But if you look at Central Institute super speciality, there is always one or two questions directly or indirectly related to the various indices that we use. So in this small brief module, I'll be summarizing all the latest key points that you need to know. The focus will be more upon the way questions are asked rather than telling you details of preventive and social medicine, the subject which you have long left back. So let us begin the discussion. First, we'll talk about the mortality indicators in pediatrics. The first mortality indicator that is important is neonatal mortality rate. Neonatal mortality rate is sometimes written as NNMR. It refers to the death of children between 0 to 28 days. That is the first 28 days, which is also the neonatal period. So it refers to how do we calculate it? It is the number of neonatal deaths, that is death within completed 28 days after birth, per 1000 live births in that year. So neonatal mortality rate is on a year basis, and we calculate it, we mention it as per 1000 live births. So what is the formula for that? The formula is neonatal mortality rate is number of neonatal deaths in 1 year divided by the total number of live births in the same year multiplied by 1000. Neonatal mortality rate, the current value can be asked in exam. So in India, as per 2019 estimate, it was 21.7 per 1000 live births, which has decreased, which has improved from 2017 value. The 2017 was the census SRS value, sample registration system, released by Ministry of Government of India and affiliated organizations of Government of India, and it said it was 23. So now it has reduced to 21.7 per 1000 live births, which is a good news, but it still remains on the higher side if you compare to the Western countries. Male neonates are found to have a higher neonatal mortality than female infants. This basically means that in case of female neonates, they are more sturdy and the risk of sepsis is also found to be higher. If you have gone through the details of neonatal sepsis, you will know that male infancy, male neonatal period has higher chances of infection and more severe infection compared to females, and this is reflected in the mortality rate as well. Now, what are the causes of neonatal mortality rate? The most common cause in decreasing order worldwide. When we say worldwide, it will include India, but it will include the overall picture. So questions can be asked to you regarding overall, and they can ask you specifically about India. So in world, according to WHO 2019 report, the most common cause is prematurity. Second common cause, this is in decreasing order. So this is the first most common, prematurity. So preterm baby, most common cause of neonatal mortality. Second most common cause is intrapartum complication, including birth asphyxia. Third common cause is neonatal infection or sepsis. And fourth common cause are the various congenital malformations. The list is very similar in India with small change in the sequence. So when you are asked most common causes of neonatal mortality rate in India, we are using the 2017 data. It says that the most common cause in India is prematurity and low birth weight. Neonatal infection and sepsis is the second most common cause in India. So there is a change here. In world, that is the third most common cause. In India, it is the second most common cause, and it shows that our asepsis precautions are not that great. We need to still work upon that. Third, we have birth asphyxia, and fourth is congenital malformations. So these are the categories of neonatal mortality rate, causes of neonatal mortality rate that you need to know. If they ask overall or world in the question, the answer will be according to this data. If they mention the word specifically about India, the answer will be according to this data. Moving further, the second indicator that we'll be discussing is perinatal mortality rate. What is perinatal period? Perinatal period, according to WHO as well as ICMR, is defined as period ranging from 22nd week of gestation till 7th day of postnatal life. In some of the countries, they follow ICD-10 criteria, which says that it is 28 weeks of gestation. But remember, in pediatrics, for all practical purposes, we follow 22nd week, and that should be the definition that you should be remembering. So what is perinatal period? Perinatal period is from 22 weeks period of gestation till 7th day of postnatal life, right? And any mortality occurring during this will be called as perinatal mortality. So obviously, it will include deaths occurring in the late fetal period, which will be called as stillbirth, and it will also include the early neonatal death within the first week of life. So it includes both late fetal deaths, that is stillbirths, as well as early neonatal deaths. And this is also expressed as per 1000 live births. So what is the formula for perinatal mortality rate? It is late fetal death plus early neonatal death in a year divided by total live births in the same year multiplied by 1000. Perinatal mortality rate, 2019 data is not available, so we have the latest data of 2017. It says 23 is the perinatal mortality rate per 1000 live births in India, which has improved from 26, which was there in 2013. Perinatal mortality rate is a major marker to assess the quality of healthcare delivery. So it checks the management of a pregnant lady in the third trimester. It measures how good the natal services, the birth care services are, and it also checks the care provided to the baby in the fragile period, that is in the first week of life. So it is an indirect indicator of the healthcare delivery in the society. Third, we have the infant mortality rate. The rate is very simple. It is given by the formula number of infant deaths in a year divided by total number of live births in the same year multiplied by 1000. Infant mortality rate is considered to be the second best indicator of socio-economic development of a country among the mortality indices after under 5 mortality rate, right? Infant mortality rate in India, 28.3 it was in 2019, down from 33 which was in 2017. So all these rates are improving. So the country is improving, but there is always scope for more improvement. Infant mortality rate is higher in female infants compared to male infants. Did you see the change here? In the neonatal period, the mortality rate is higher in males. Whereas if you look at infancy, the rate is higher in females. What it means is, unfortunately, we as a country are not taking care of our females properly. And it begins in the infancy period itself. Sad but the harsh truth. And more about it needs to be done. Most common cause of infant mortality in India. Number one cause, prematurity and low birth weight. Second common cause are respiratory infections, that is pneumonias, right? So these are the top two causes. This is most common cause. This is the second most common cause. A common mistake you people will make is you will mix up, not you all, but this I have gone through this phase, so I know it. You will mix up the causes of world with India, or you will extrapolate causes of neonatal mortality into infant mortality, and infant into perinatal mortality, and perinatal into under 5 mortality rate, and so on. These all need to be remembered separately. There are minute differences, and examiners are very smart. They check your knowledge about those very differences. Moving further, there is an MCQ point here. Old statement based question was asked upon it. Relation of IMR and birth order. So it is seen that suppose you have the first birth order, the first child in birth order in the family, then you have second birth order, and then you have third birth order and fourth birth order, and so on. So the infant mortality rate is high in the first child. Then it is found that infant mortality rate dips in the second birth order, and then infant mortality rate again increases after third, and it is higher again in fourth. So it looks something like this. If I have to plot, this is the first child, first birth order, this is second birth order, third and fourth. So the graph looks something like this. It dips and then it goes on rising as the number of children advances. So the question is, lowest infant mortality rate is seen in second birth order. This was the MCQ point which was asked as a statement based thing in Central Institute AIMS entrance exam some years back. If I have to show it as a graph, the graph might look something like this. There is no such graph, but it is easy for always easy to remember. This is how we used to remember, and still it is equally relevant. See, in the first birth order, because the child is in primi gravida mothers, we find that the care of the child may not be as adequate. Parents may not be as well versed with the danger signs of the child, and so we find that infant mortality rate is a bit higher. In the second child, it is found that the parents are now kind of trained. They have, learned from their mistakes they have made in the infancy period in the previous child, and so they take care of the child a bit better. There is no rule, but this is what the general implication is. This is what the explanation for this fact is. And then third, fourth, and fifth birth order, we find that there are too many children in home now, and the care of the child now starts to suffer. These are the children who are, sometimes third, fourth, fifth, sixth birth order. You will find that the age of the mother is also rising, and so there will be increasing risk of congenital malformations, increasing risk of trisomies, and poor spacing will be a problem. We find that more number of children in a family, fourth, fifth, sixth birth order, is usually associated with a relatively lower socioeconomic status. So all these things will come into play, and they will ensure that the mortality rate goes on rising. So the lowest mortality rate among birth order is seen in second birth order. So this is the point that you need to remember. Moving further, we have the child death rate. Child death rate and child mortality rate are not same. They are synonymously used, but they are not same. Child death rate is technically called as 1 to 4 year mortality rate. It excludes the neonates and infants. So child death rate is number of deaths of children aged 1 to 4 years in a year divided by not live births now, because we have excluded the neonatal and infants. So here the denominator is different. Please remember, it is mid-year population of children of the same age, that is 1 to 4 years, multiplied by 1000. Child death rate is a more refined indicator of the social situation in a country than infant mortality rate. And then we come to under 5 mortality rate. Under 5 mortality rate is also called as child mortality rate. So CMR is child mortality rate. It is different from child death rate, which was the previous marker. It is, according to UNICEF, this is the single best indicator of socioeconomic development and well-being of a child. Child mortality rate will be number of deaths. This will include your deaths of the children in the neonatal period, infancy also. So number of deaths of children less than 5 years of age in a year divided by number of live births in a year multiplied by 1000. So denominator में live birth will be there only when you are taking into account the infancy period. If infants have been excluded, your denominator will not have live births. Please remember this point. Under 5 mortality rate in India, according to 2017, it was 37 per 1000 live births, which is still high. It is what are the most common causes of under 5 mortality rate? Very frequently asked question. The most common cause is pneumonia. In the 90s, 80s, and even early part of 2000s, we found that diarrhea used to be the most common cause. Now we know that pneumonia has replaced diarrhea as the most common cause. This is your NEET super specialty MCQ one-liner. Most common cause of mortality globally in children below 5 years of age. 4 options were given. One was pneumonia. That was your answer. Second common cause is diarrhea. So this is in decreasing order. Third common cause is injuries, also called as accidents. And fourth common cause is malaria. So malaria is not one of the favorite topics when it comes to entrance exam. A very interesting thing we have noticed when we go through the papers. Examiners have a very different mindset. When you are preparing for the exams, you will get questions from topics like PNH, PCH, rare syndromes, yeast syndrome, and so on. These are the diseases you will seldom see in your practice. You will seldom see in your wards. When you reach the wards, you have seen it already, that it is all tuberculosis, malaria, diarrhea, dengue, septic shock, and these days COVID. So except for COVID, the other things they are relatively less frequently asked. So that is how the system is. You need to adapt to the system. The system says in entrance exam, you should know about everything, especially everything about the common and atypical rare syndromes. When it comes to your entrance, to your actual practice, actual thing, you need to adapt according to what is there. And malaria, although it is not very frequent these days, malaria ke bare mein people do not talk much, but it is among the top 4 causes of under 5 mortality rate still in worldwide, which includes India as well. Now, the latest data according to WHO 2019, the global data says, this is a photograph which is inspired from the data given in WHO. So, WHO says, look at this group, 1 to 59 month, and then we have the neonatal deaths. In neonatal death, 2019 data says, preterm and related birth complications are the most common cause. Second common cause is your intrapartum related events, which will include your asphyxia, and third common cause will be sepsis. Fourth common cause will be congenital malformations, right? This is what we have discussed so far. In 1 to 59 months post neonatal age, till 5 years of age, you will find that pneumonia is the most common cause. Then you have diarrhea as the second most common cause. Third, we have injuries as the third most common cause, and malaria, which is the fourth most common cause, right? So this is the data and this interpretation. Now, other common indices to know for exams, we'll quickly hurriedly go through them. First is Global Hunger Index, in short written as GHI. It combines 3 equally weighted indicators. First, it includes the proportion of undernourished, that is malnutrition, as a percentage of the population. A particular population has how many protein energy malnutrition kids. Secondly, it takes into account the prevalence of underweight children under the age of 5. So below 5 years of age, how many children are having weight for age below 80% of expected? That is what you call as underweight, right? Third, it takes child mortality rate or under 5 mortality rate as one of the indicator. So together, if we combine them, we get the index called as Global Hunger Index. I'm discussing only those indices which are related to pediatrics. I'm not talking about the other adult indices. Then second, we have the Physical Quality of Life Index. Physical Quality of Life Index is a subjective measure of quality of life. It does not include money-based things because money is not everything. Money can't buy happiness. This is true. But sometimes money does buy some happiness as well. Absence of money can lead to absence of happiness as well. So Physical Quality of Life Index ranges from 0 to 100. It incorporates 3 parameters. You have infant mortality, you have life expectancy at age 1, and you have literacy, that is education status. Third index is Human Development Index. Human Development Index ranges from 0 to 1. It incorporates 3 parameters. Life expectancy index, which means life expectancy at birth, not at age 1. Second is GNI index. GNI stands for Gross National Income Per Capita. So Human Development Index will take money into account. Physical Quality of Life Index, there is no money involved. And third is Education Index. Education Index of children will include mean years of schooling as well as expected years of schooling. HDI for India is not very good. It is 0.647 as of 2018, and India's rank was 129 out of 189 countries. That is why we are still a developing country. We may have made progress, but there is a long path yet to walk on. And top 5 countries as per HDI. No, it is not United States or United Kingdom. Bollywood movies, Hollywood movies may say anything, but the real quality of life HDI index high is seen in countries like Norway, right? Number 1. Switzerland, number 2. So Switzerland not only has good scenic areas, it also has a high quality of life. Third is Ireland. Fourth is your Germany. And fifth is your Hong Kong. Hong Kong is a part of China, but it is a semi-autonomous region, and so the HDI list which was released, it mentioned Hong Kong as a separate category, so we are talking about it as a separate category. Ireland has been mentioned separate from the other parts of United Kingdom. The remaining United Kingdom, which includes Great Britain and Wales, they are much below the list. So this is the list for HDI. And then we have an index called as child survival index. It is also called as child survival rate. So we have acronyms called as CSI and CSR. Child survival index is calculated by the formula 1000 minus under 5 mortality rate divided by 10, right? So if you, what you do is you calculate the latest under 5 mortality rate, you subtract it from 1000 and divide it by 10. In India, according to 2017, based upon under 5 mortality rate, the CSR in India is 96.3, which has again improved from before. So this finishes our basic discussion of the various indices that you need for your exam. Please focus on the formulas as well as the common causes of various rates that we discussed. The Indian related data, you can just have a look before you go for your exam. More important for central institutes than NEET super specialty, but end of the day, every question matters. So you can't take chances even in NEET SS exam. Thank you.